Hi everyone, it's Karen here with a new art journaling page that I created using Prima marketing mediums and Altenew stamp, dyes, and inks. This is an art journaling process that I really enjoy doing, and it could be for beginners or experts or anybody who wants to learn more about mixed media. So sit, relax, and enjoy the process. I want to apologize for the super inky fingers. I worked with black gesso right before, and I couldn't get the gesso off my fingers before starting this project, but I guess inky fingers are still fun and it looks like I was productive. I'm working in my Dylusions art journal, and this is a double spread. I took some modeling paste from Prima and Tim Holtz stone layering stencil to create some texture in the background. I'm using my silicone brush to apply it to the background because it's just such a smooth tool to use in order for to apply modeling paste or gel or anything, and then it's really easy to clean afterwards. I'm linking all the products that I used today in the description area, so you can go and check them out if you're interested. And I just wanted to create a lot of texture around the borders of my journal, leaving the middle empty. That's a good tip for art journaling because you do want to kind of frame everything in your art journal so things are focused in the area where you want them to be focused. So if you do want to create something where the center is the focus, then best is to actually frame everything by creating the texture all around the journal. This is one of the tips and one of the ideas that you can do. Of course, art journaling has freedom to do whatever you want, and you don't really have to frame it, but I do like it when I am focusing, and I wanted to focus specifically on the sentiment that I was writing, so I wanted to make sure that everything focuses in the middle. If you're going to do a different type of art journal, then you don't have to do this. I let the modeling paste air dry because I was going to do something else. However, you can definitely heat set it if you want to continue to the next step. My idea for this art journaling page was to create a garden, and I took an Altenew stamp set. This is the vintage rose set, and it stamps layered flowers from different kinds. It stamps some roses, and it also has some cherry blossoms to create a cherry blossom branch. So originally I tried to stamp this using my stamp platform, but I have to tell you it was just so difficult. I don't know why it was so difficult for me to figure out the angles, and it was taking too long. And I was trying to stamp a lot of the flowers at the same time, and that didn't work. So I really had to do this the old-fashioned way with a little stamp block, and it just worked much better for me and less stressful, because it had a really hard time lining up the flowers. I don't know, I must be like challenged in this because I really tried and it was just taking so long to do. This set was lent to me by a friend, a good friend of mine, and she also lent me some Altenew inks, and they come in sets of 4 of different shades, so you can use them to do the layered stamping. So I really wanted to incorporate teal colors because those are my favorite. Teal and aqua are some of my favorite colors. So I started with the lightest color and stamped the background of the flower, and then I line up the stamp, and then I go with the next ink, which is a little bit darker. The shade is a little bit darker. Some flowers have 4 different stamps and some only have 3. So I did play around with the shading to create them similar so they could all match in the page. So here I am adding the 3rd set of this stamp and going with the next ink, which is a little bit darker, and I will list all the colors below so you know which ones I used. And then I am going with, I think this one has, oh, this is the 4th one, sorry. And then I'm going to do the other flower, and I am starting again and stamping. And I'm not going to show you how I did all the flower because that takes too long, but I did fill the page with a bunch of flowers. I really wanted to create a garden because I really love the quote, grow where you're planted. This is something that is very, very difficult for me to do. It's very hard for me to just be thrown somewhere and then I have to just basically fend for myself, and I have a really hard time. I want to kind of direct where I'm going, I want to direct my path, but sometimes God has other plans for me, and or something. The universe has other plans for me that I don't intend to, that are not for me, that I feel that are not for me, and it's very frustrating to just kind of go with the flow and have to adapt to that situation where I want to go in a completely different direction. And this is something that I've had to work with a lot, because it's very hard for me to grow where I'm planted. I'm kind of a seed that wants to grow wherever I feel like it. I don't want to be growing exactly where I'm told. So I really try to think how I can work on myself with this. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm not sure, I think a lot of people have a hard time with this because they kind of want to direct their own lives. So it's something that I guess we all have to work on, but I can only speak for myself. This set also comes with some leaves, layered leaves, so I'm doing the same thing. This is a green set from the Altenew inks, and I just again did the same thing. This one has 3 layers, so I used the lightest one first, then the middle, and then the darkest. And I think I went back and actually stamped a really dark one on top to really highlight those strong shadows that are in the front. Not the shadows, I mean strong patterns that are in the front. I also want to talk about these inks from Altenew. The shades are beautiful and they mesh with each other and blend in with each other. At the beginning when you stamp, they're a little bit blotchy, but as they dry up, they become very smooth and they blend in really nicely, one color with the other, to create a really nice blended image. So here I am, as you can see, I made a bunch of flowers and leaves, and now I'm taking the cherry blossom branch and I am stamping it with the green. I'm going to stamp 2 of these because I want one of each of the corners of my art journaling page. And I'm also going to be stamping a bunch of the little flowers, the cherry blossoms, so I can have them for this branch. I also forgot to say that the paper I'm using is a Hammermill digital copy 100-pound paper, and it's very beautifully smooth, so you can stamp really easily on it, and you can also use it for Copics or Spectrum Noir markers. So although I didn't intend to do this as a healing journal, I find that all journals are healing, and this specific sentence that I was talking about, it's really meaningful to me. So in a way I like to share that as well, because I think it's important to show other people that not only there is sadness in this world, but we also can find something that makes us happy. I took some of the cherry blossoms here. I'm going to do the same technique of layering them and actually stamping them. There's 3 different sizes. There's the big one, the middle one, the small one. There's so many other different flowers in this set. It's a really, really great set. And I really like that you can layer different flowers and basically make a beautiful garden out of it. This set also comes with the matching dies, and I took my time and cut out all the flowers, leaves, and branches, and here it is. And my friend was gracious enough to lend me everything, so I'm really, really grateful that she did that, and I'm able to create my garden for my journaling page. Once the texture was dry, I took some Prima heavy white gesso from Finnabair and basically added a light coat on top of the texture. I really wanted the gesso to be the top layer because I was going to add sprays, and I love how the sprays look when they're running through the gesso, and that keeps not only the texture underneath but also gives a really good base for the sprays. This is a really great beginner's technique, but I just love it so much. I use it all the time, no matter what. Using sprays is one of my favorite techniques, so it's really great to just experiment with them. And especially when you put the white gesso, they look so good on any type of surface. I heat set the white gesso, and then I put 2 paper towels in between my pages just so they would not run to my other pages that are behind. I took some color bloom sprays. This is the Brimstone Wings and the Spring Dandelions, which are 2 of my favorite colors, including also the Dragonfly Blue, which is also one of my favorites. But I really love this green and yellow and how shimmery it is. And what I did is I just sprayed them basically at the edges of the art journal page, especially around the texture, and then added a little bit of water just to let them run. I was really careful when I was letting them run that I clean up the center of my journal with some wipe as soon as it drips, because otherwise it accumulates right there in the center and then it drips into the other pages. You could avoid that by actually protecting it with some tape in the middle and then putting the gesso, but I really didn't want to have anything in the middle. I wanted that white space in the middle so I could put my sentiment, and I didn't want anything to go in there. I really wanted just everything kind of to center, focus towards the center, and have these drips going into the middle. So the edges would be colored and the center would be more white. And because I have the gesso, it's really easy to just clean up the areas where I don't want the ink to go to. Now, since these colors are so light, I had to get a little bit of a darker color, so when I would add it in between the texture, it would run in between the grooves of the texture and would create those shadows. I took Pot of Marigold Color Boom Spray from Prima, and instead of spraying it, I was going to use the spout for it, but I much rather use a thin paintbrush. This is a Prima Finnabair paintbrush. I find the technique works better when I use a paintbrush because I can control where I'm putting the ink much easier. So I'm just putting it at the edges and then letting it drip the same way I did before, but in a much more controlled area. So I'm putting a little bit, adding a little bit of spray, and then letting it run. I'm doing the same thing of cleaning the middle to make sure that it doesn't drip in the areas where I don't want it to. In this case, I also put a little bit of water in some of the areas and then let it drip. It's basically experimenting with which technique works best for you. So as you can see, I keep on cleaning the middle, putting more of the ink and then spreading it with the water. So it really looks like everything is focusing into that middle white area. I heat set this really well because I was going to add the flowers and I wanted to make sure everything is dry. Now it was time to focus on the layout composition, and I really wanted the flowers and the branches to kind of be in the two corners, one at the bottom left corner and one at the top right corner. And it's a great way of bringing everything together and making it cohesive, and basically makes it all center, your eye centers towards the middle, which is what I was trying to do. So I was just arranging the flowers and the leaves and the branches to make it look like a garden coming out of the edges of the page. I'm trying to give you as many tips, as this is an art journaling process, and it's not only for beginners, because a lot of people could use help with tips in specific areas, but another tip that I want to talk about is about colors and the reason why I chose what I did for the background. So I know that, for example, I wanted teal flowers, and I know that teal is a complementary color to the oranges. So I knew that by putting a little bit of orange in it would make it look and the teal to pop out, and that's really what I wanted. I wanted the flowers to kind of stand out, so it really helped to put that really nice orange in the background, and that orange also helped create those really nice textural grooves that you see in certain areas. Here I am arranging the last set of the cherry blossoms, and basically once I saw it, I was really happy that I had done all that work at stamping and cutting. I took some soft matte gel from Prima and I used it to basically glue all the flowers to the background. I didn't put glue on top until the end. First, I just glued everything to the background and then I sealed it with the same gel. I wanted to be very careful because sometimes the ink in the background can come into the other areas and basically stained other things. Now, if you don't have stamps or you don't have flowers that you can stamp, you could definitely print some from the internet and create your own garden that way. You could print coloring pages from the internet and basically fussy cut them. I mean, there's many different areas. You don't have to buy these, although it's really fun to stamp and cut and everything, but you can really find solutions. There's also something called graphic stock and you can print things from there. So there's really a lot of places that you can find images that can work for your art journaling pages. I'm not going to bore you by showing you how I glued every single flower, but believe me that I did glue every single one. And then I took some gel and just used it to protect each one by adding it on top of the flowers. I printed the quote that I wanted on a piece of paper and cut it up and then glued it to the background using the same gel medium I used before. A great tip, if you don't have the exact sentiment or the exact quote that you want, is just using your computer and printing it out, typing it, using different fonts. It's really cheap and you can basically type anything and print anything you want. Finally, I took a Sharpie water-based paint marker. This is the aqua color, and I highlighted the words and outlined them around each word so they would basically match the rest of the page. I didn't want to use black, although I thought about it, but because I hadn't incorporated any black into this page except for the words, I wanted it to match the flowers. So that's why I used the teal color. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my Flowery Garden art journaling page. If you think that somebody can benefit from either the tips or the message that you saw today in this video, please share it with your friends on social media. To see more of my work, subscribe to my channel and visit me on my website to sign up to my newsletter linked above. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day. Bye!